CTHC. Today, as I mentioned, it looks like we lack quorum, so you will have the opportunity to provide public comment as we go through the listening session, and then we'll also open up for general public comment once we are done with the listening session. If you'd like to provide public comment at any time, you can raise your hand and our staff will call on you. You can also email written comments to info@catruthandhealing.com at your convenience. Now, before we begin, I'd like to remind participants that all of our council members, council staff, and many of you are members of the population seeking collective healing in this space. So I encourage you to engage with the council, our office, and each other with respect and your whole heart in a healing mindset. At this time, I'm going to do roll call just to make sure that who we have on. So I'll start with Central Region. Councilmember Khan is not present. Councilmember Kessler-Mata.
Here.
Councilmember Maccaro is not present. Councilmember Manzano is not present.
I just saw her in the attendees list, but she's no longer on there. She may be having some difficulties joining, just flagging.
Okay. Councilmember Burris.
Present.
Councilmember Perrone is not present. Councilmember Sisk is not present. Councilmember Roberts is not present. Councilmember Bohorquez is not present. Councilmember Harper.
Present.
We do have the Councilmember Bohorquez. Councilmember Bohorquez.
Present.
Councilmember Myers is not present. Councilmember Giovanetti is not present. Councilmember Elliott Santos is not present. Councilmember Lucas.
Yes.
Councilmember Turner.
Here.
And Councilmember Phelps.
Here.
Great. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. We need 8 members in attendance for quorum. So we do not have quorum, and this meeting will be tabled until the next regular business meeting of the council, and we will convert it into a listening session. For the council members present, that means that open discussion of the items on the agenda is not something that you can do. And if you need to leave, you can drop off. But what we will do today is have a general overview of the March in-person meeting that's coming up in 2 weeks from now. And then we'll open up for public comment as well. So I am going to go ahead and get that presentation open. Okay. Apologies for the delay. And we'll get started in just a minute. Okay, is that looking okay?
We see the presenter notes.
Okay. How's that?
Now it's good.
So as we always do with these meetings, we want to start with the council meeting principles. So in order to create a space where participants feel welcomed, respected, and able to speak comfortably, we'll uphold the following principles in all convenings of the council. We ask that all participants, which includes council members, authorized representatives, staff, moderators, and the public, work towards sharing in their stewardship. If you are a participant in a convening with the council, we ask that you engage in the work of the council and with others in an open and respectful way. Engage in behaviors that will make others feel welcome. Take care of your emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being, and seek support as you need it. Respectful engagement. This means to affirm the person while critiquing the ideas, provide feedback constructively and with the intent for mutual growth and healing. Welcome feedback and challenges to your opinions. Avoid contributing to assumptions or generalizations about tribes, tribal communities, or other groups. Do not ask individuals to speak for their perceived group, speak only for yourself. Offer participants the benefit of the doubt. Spirited discussions are expected on these topics. See this as a sign that folks are engaged and care, and remember to be respectful as you speak, read, and listen. Honor confidentiality. Do not share others' experiences or information without permission. Assume that you have relative privileges and both explicit and implicit biases. Know that others may or may not have had similar opportunities, experiences, and background as you. Recognize that their contributions are equally valuable. For those from dominant identity groups, refrain from contributions that prioritize dominant experiences over those who have been marginalized. Welcoming behavior. Make behavioral adjustments for virtual communication. If you wouldn't say something to someone's face, refrain from saying it virtually by voice or text. Know that use of strong language, capital letters, and exclamation marks can be easily misinterpreted online as unwelcome yelling or aggressive behavior. Remember that tone does not carry via text. People might not realize that you're joking or being sarcastic. Leave space for others to engage and express comments and ideas if you have spoken recently by letting people finish their thoughts before adding new ones. Personal well-being. Take steps to ensure your physical comfort. Some examples in virtual meetings include shifting your sitting and standing position often, taking a purposeful deep breath regularly, raising your eyes to look beyond the screen or sit back from the computer when possible to relieve eye strain. Keep a glass of water nearby and take sips throughout sessions. Please consider physically leaving the computer during breaks. Participate as you are able to and adjust your presence as needed, whether that's turning off video or stepping away entirely. It's not expected that all participants will or should be present for the entirety of the council's work. We know and support that you will take time to eat, take care of your families and pets, but be aware that virtual convenings will be recorded and available to the public. Set up supportive resources such as food, water, ergonomics, and privacy while offloading responsibilities if possible in advance of convenings. Plan for breaks and stick to them. Seek support from your own networks or from provided resources as needed. And alert council staff to any concerns as soon as possible by emailing info@savetruthandhealing.com. We recognize that participants bring their entire selves and histories with them to the council, and that topics explored during the course of this work may stimulate emotions and thoughts that would benefit from accompaniment and support. Although trauma responses can come from a variety of sources and contexts, the council understands that those who have experienced disparate treatment due to their Native identities may specifically want to seek assistance related to historical trauma and related issues discussed with the council. Council staff will be providing supportive resources for participants to be available for the duration of the council's work. So today, what we're going to talk about is the hybrid quarterly council meeting agenda. And we're going to go through that a little bit so everyone knows what to expect. And just to flag very quickly, let me go back a couple slides. The council is currently seeking to conduct interviews for Native oral histories, particularly from elders, and can provide you with assistance in providing submissions. Please contact us at info@catruthandhealing.com expressing your interest in submitting an oral history. And I wanted to flag this too, because for those of you who will be participating in person in the Sacramento convening in 2 weeks, if you have any elders that would like to submit an oral history at that time, we can work with you to have those submissions taken at the time of the in-person meeting. This year, the Governing Council is continuing to meet on a monthly basis to conduct business virtually until the end of March, at which time open meeting waivers will expire. So today is the last virtual meeting unless we have another one scheduled before the end of March, which we'll reach out to council members to see if that's something they'd like to do. And then regular quarterly council meetings and hearings are starting this month, as I mentioned, with the first hybrid meeting taking place on March 17th and 18th in Sacramento. Business meetings after March will need to be largely in person or potentially hybrid, but will need to be done in compliance with the open meeting rules. And so we will figure out how to best accommodate that moving forward, understanding that it'll be a bit more of a time commitment for council members to be able to convene. Oops, apologies. So this is the draft public agenda for the March hybrid meeting. So on Wednesday, March 16th, there will be a site visit and listening session for interpretive changes at Sutter's Fort State Park. And that is to talk about changes to how the history of Sutter's Fort came about and what happened to the Native people there. And so that's open to the public. That does not require pre-registration. And then Thursday, March 17th, there will be an in-person convening of the California Truth and Healing Council at the future site of the California Indian Heritage Center in West Sacramento. This will be streaming and will have an ability to have interactive Q&A. But if you would like to attend in person, we are encouraging California Native peoples and who are both indigenous to and living in the Sacramento region to attend in person if you'd like. And if you are planning on being in town, we would love to have you attend in person, and we'll be sending out details once folks register. The registration link for that, we'd like you to register by the end of next Friday, the 11th. But the earlier you can register, the better, so that we can get a better understanding of how many people we need to be setting up for. In the afternoon, the public will have the opportunity to do some limited viewing of primary sources and oral histories and Native exhibits, and that will require pre-registration as well. So again, the earlier people can pre-register, the better, so that we can get an idea of how many people we should be anticipating for that. The council itself during that afternoon will be going to the parks collection to view the baskets, all of the native materials that the parks department has in its ownership right now, or in its stewardship right now. And then the next day will be a hearing for the California Truth and Healing Council, and that will be at the California Natural Resources Agency Auditorium. That hearing will be closed generally to the public, except for those who are invited, which will be panelists who are invited to testify and the California Truth and Healing Council itself and staff. So most participants for that will be streaming and participating online. I do want to say, though, that for those tribes that are indigenous to the Sacramento region, we're happy to accommodate participation as long as it complies with being safe during, given the endemic that we're still in. But for those California tribes that have members, those California Native peoples that are indigenous to Sacramento, we would love to have your participation. So please just reach out to us so that we can accommodate your participation in that space. I don't know if I have another. Okay, I'll just go over really quickly. So for hybrid meetings and hearings, they'll prioritize the local tribes and the Native peoples of the region. So for each meeting, we ask tribes a number of questions. So do you have any suggested or proposed speakers to present the story of your tribe or the Sacramento region to the council? Is your tribe interested in providing an opening blessing or thoughts? Would your tribe or a representative like to have the opportunity to tell the story of your tribe at a location? within these events, how many individuals will attend from your tribe? Is there anything about your tribe that you'd like highlighted for the general public? So this is any resources that you'd like to have about cultural centers, businesses, web presence, and we're happy to highlight that information as well. And then if the tribe or any tribal members would like to host affiliate events. And then if the tribe would like to provide any digital content. So if the tribe's already done its own story on video or has some oral histories that it would like to present to the council, we can accommodate that as well. So I'm going to stop sharing at this time. And the next regional meeting that we're looking at is going to be in June. We can accommodate potentially a regional the regional meeting is in June. We can accommodate a regional hearing before then if there is a place and a setting and a panel that is ready to go. But the next one we're planning for is in June. And we're tentatively thinking about having that one be in Washoe area near Lake Tahoe. But if folks have strong feelings about that, we will have that conversation, but would like to get that date settled pretty soon. So we will probably put that on the agenda and have a little bit of business in the in-person meeting just so that we can get a couple of decisions made in the next 2 weeks. But again, that will be in June, probably around the same date as the apology originally was on the 16th and 17th potentially, but it could be, the week after that as well. So we'll have that conversation when everybody's together to be voting. So at this time, what I'd like to do is open up for public comment, if we can do that.
Yeah, just to remind the participants to raise their hand via the Zoom platform, or if you're on the phone, you can press #2 to raise your hand and I'll unmute you.
As a reminder, we're in the general public comment portion of today's session as we tabled the regular business meeting until the next convening of the council, and we're now in listening mode. And so if anyone has any public comments or any comments they'd like to share with the group, please feel free to raise your hand at this time.
Robert Lee, I'll allow you to talk. You should be able to unmute yourself, Robert.
Cool. Good afternoon, everybody. Anyway, I'm Robert Levi. I'm a citizen of the Torres Martinez Desert Cowie Indians. I'm also the elder in residence at CSUSB down here in Southern California. I'm on the education subcommittee. We met on Tuesday, I believe, Wednesday. Anyway, we met and just discussed different issues about just preparing lesson plans. Being a council member, Giovanni had a fun time talking about what was Myers is his last name. He was a Cowie Indian who caught in the major leagues back in the early part of the 20th century. Education so far down here at Cal State San Bernardino on campus, we've got some issues that are pertaining to California Indians and the Indian community in general. This morning we had an honoring breakfast for Ernie and June Siva, who are in charge of the Dorothy Ramon Learning Center down here in Banning, California. It was for community engagement with the university. Ernie's my uncle, got to plug that in, got to keep family. And they've been doing so much for the university and for the area reservations, Morongo, Loretta, Morongo, Saboba, Torres Martinez, Agua Caliente, in terms of what they're promoting in their learning center. They're also engaging now into writing curriculum So when they found out that that's what my wife and I are doing for a lot of ethics studies and for hopefully the AB 1554, so we're going to start working with them in terms of designing curriculum for California schools, specifically Riverside Unified School District, and we've just been in contact with L Unified. So again, like I've been benching this council for, I don't know how long we've been, a year and a half, 2 years, is that education is the healing. And that's what my wife and I, that's what we're trying to do. The historical trauma and social justice is what we've been through is systemic. And so we got to fix the system. And again, that's part what I'm trying to do at CSUSB. So just let you know, we're working hard down here, and hopefully we'll have some outcomes really quickly, especially at Riverside Unified. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Robert. Do we have any additional public comments at this time? And if you'd like to make a public comment, you can raise your hand.
Ken Woodrow, I'll allow you to speak. You should be able to unmute yourself, Ken.
Good afternoon. I thought this was, I came in late, so I'm trying to figure out where we're at in this meeting. Is this a tribal council meeting, or is this a council meeting, or?
This was a business meeting, and then at the time that we began, we did not have quorum, so we tabled the business items for the next regular meeting of the council and converted to a listening session.
Okay, because I was at a loss here. I guess since it's general, comment period, are we ever going to talk about tribal recognition at state level? I mean, I've been on this for a while. Every time I'm on communication with you, because as a unrecognized tribe, even though we're a historical tribe, we don't get the benefits that other tribal entities have. We have nothing. I'm not saying recognized tribes, I'm glad they get what they get, but we're being left out. That's the thing, is there should be some sort of preference at the state level, because this is what the state did to us, the ones that weren't forced onto a rancheria or reservation, being that, we were still within our village. My mother was still there. We had the village. There was no point for us to leave the village until, we had the BIA. They would come out and try and set up some sort of farming within 160 acres. And being that the land we were on was not capable of being farmed, because we're gatherers and we're trades. So, all our systems were destroyed by, this European idea of farming. We still have trust land, but there's nothing we could do with 160 acres, that's going to be viable for our community. So, it's not the feds did it to us, the federal government. It was a state when we signed those 2 treaties. So it's kind of hard to understand that everything's happening in Sacramento when you have the Central Valley, where there's, a large amount of natives still there that aren't recognized. They don't get the support. So are we going to ever talk about state recognition? Because we know what was happened to all of us. There's no difference between us and a fairly recognized tribe. It's just, it wasn't the feds that did it to us, it was the state. So I know there's all these groups of elders and youth councils and stuff. How do we fit into this? I mean, you're apologizing to us, all the California Indians, that was the genocide that was done to us. And we know that's true. But what about us? You know, we have tribal councils, we have constitution bylaws, you know, we got all the criteria. And I also see, you know, Native American Heritage Commission is fulfilling some of those requirements, like the federal acknowledgement process. You know, I guess, can anybody answer? Are we going to go for state recognition? Is this viable? Is it possible? Or is it just me pounding against a wall, you know, trying to get services for my people? Because we're not very, you know, we don't get services. You know, we're just another minority group, but we're not. You know, there's very few of us left. And that's my question. Are we ever going to talk about state recognition? You know, I don't know where to go with this. Thank you.
So to be responsive to that, the council stood up the status and identity subcommittee to be able to talk through issues like that and work through what would be viable options and recommendations to put forward to the council. And so that's where that discussion would happen. We are still looking for someone to help facilitate and mediate those discussions. And so if you have good suggestions about who might be able to be a good fit, who I think has a bit of a distance from the California Indian community, that would be helpful. But that is something that the needs and priorities of California Native people who are not members of federally recognized tribes is something that this council is contemplating, looking at both with a lens, but then also for specific for those specific recommendations that don't neatly fit across the different issue areas that this council will be looking at. So it's something that will be under discussion. Again, that's going to be in the context of that subcommittee. And then it sounds like too that it might be worth planning for a regional convening in the Central Valley, where a lot of the folks that you're talking about are located. And I think that we can have that conversation and think about how to have a bit more of a targeted discussion local to all of you.
All right, Julie Holder is the next person with their hand raised. Julie, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Unmute. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Very good. My name is, hello, my name is Julie Holder, and I am interested in the conversation about recognition and acknowledgement, because it's an ongoing conversation that has been reviewed many, many times. The government in the past and the California state government has never had any issue with us that are considered urban Indians, which is a far greater population than any of the tribal reservations has ever acknowledged. And it is a huge issue and something that needs to be discussed and with a clearer and a more cohesive understanding of what we're doing, because I think that it's bandied around. There's a lot of money going around with casino, but the urban population is never acknowledged, and we are always confronted with our heritage and our issues. So it's not just a simple conversation. I think it's something that really needs to be refined, and it's needing to be refined among the Indian populations, including the urbans who are not federally recognized, but all carry BIA numbers. So I appreciate it, and I would like a conversation to be elevated. These meetings are a little difficult in that we never know when they are or how they're going to be handled, and we're not really seeing the presence of our populations acknowledge and understand that this is going on in our behalf. And it's one of those issues that I believe needs to be put forth to all the communities more clearly, and you need more participation, because I don't see the accountability in our numbers here. I know people are hearing about it, but not knowing how to access and to know what is going on in this time of technology. Many of our elders know about it, but they don't have ways to listen and to be present for these conversations, which we've heard over and over again throughout our lifetimes. So I would appreciate some more effort to have Native community come to the table and be interactive so they can be hearing these conversations, which are critical to us as modern Indians.
Thank
That's
you, Julie.
okay. That said, I have one more issue. I noticed in this invitation you have to us, there's two things that came across. One of them is that this invitation to come to Sacramento and be participating in a public meeting is open to everybody, or will there be limitations to us as Native people if we want to participate?
So for the public meeting, it is prioritized for Native people. And so to the extent that there are non-Native people who are participating that exceed the capacity that we're hoping to have in this meeting, we'll cut that off and we will defer to Native people participating in that space.
Okay. And then the next question in that regard is that I see simultaneously you're having a tour of the California Indian Heritage Project, which has been on the plate for almost 25 years now. My question to you before we get to that point is that who is the Native California people working in the park system in this project, who are representing California Native people throughout this process that are in positions of authority and paid for their expertise and their knowledge, not simply advisors looking at details?
Well, right now, we're still in the very initial phases of it. So we're not at that point yet where we're having paid consultants or paid folks working in that space. We do have, at least on the state side, Loretta and I, and then some folks at Park who are Native people who are working to help support from the state side. But we also have a California Indian Heritage Center task force that's made up of California leaders from throughout the state, both federally and non-federally recognized, who have been going through the RFP process to help find a firm that will be, again, then working with the California Native community to bring in those folks as well. So we're still kind of very much at the ground level of where things are at, but the project is moving along, and the in-person opportunity will also be an opportunity for the public to ask questions to the task force and to the Parks Department about how that process has been going.
And that will be at the site on the 17th?
Yep.
Okay, will there be another public meeting after that in terms of conversations?
Yes, for the California Indian Heritage Center project, yes.
Thank you.
And there will be ongoing public conversations once that firm is selected in conjunction with that task force as well.
And may I ask how we make that project more accountable to the California Native community? Because you say that there are people who work within the park system that are California Indians, and yet we have not seen that in visibility, nor have we seen that in policy making, nor have we seen that in accountability within the system itself. We question that, and we would like to have that be an accountable assessment that we can see as California Native people, who is California Native working in these systems that makes decisions for California Native people.
We appreciate that. And I think that's a great suggestion. And I think we would love to have those thoughts and suggestions moving forward so that that project is developed in full accountability to California Native people.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send my letter.
You can just show up and tell us.
I will.
That's what it's for. And I would say in terms of community engagement, I think if there are ideas about how to make this process more accessible, I know we have some folks on from our partner philanthropy organization, but we are hoping to, the funding subcommittee is going to stand up a community fund to help get more community engaged in this effort. And so if there are things that feel like, and first of all, I think having in-person and hybrid meetings will help a little bit. But if there are things like, a community needs to have a shuttle to shuttle in elders, or, there's something that needs to happen in order to have that engagement piece, I think we're all ears and would welcome more community engagement as well. Additional public comment at this time?
No other hands raised currently.
Okay, then I'll just make a final plug for the in-person meeting. And just for details, we are requiring proof of vaccination upon entry. It is an outdoor event, but we just want to be safe because we know that we'll have some elders that are present and want to make sure that we're not putting them at risk unnecessarily. That meeting, we will also provide you with some thoughts to be bringing into that space. But we'll also have an update on that Indian Heritage Center and have a discussion about how all of these different work streams can work together with the task force, with the council, with the Native American Heritage Commission, and all of the things that are happening stateside. Parks will also give a bit of an update on some of the efforts to do more interpretive changes and hiring within the park system throughout the state. And so I think if there are thoughts about that, we welcome that active engagement and presence. So again, vaccine, and we'll take digital photos too, a verification, but that will be required upon entry. And then also a symptom check at the beginning, just so that we're kind of all on the same page and all being safe. And it's completely outdoors, that event. We hope you can attend. If you can attend, I think register sooner rather than later so that we can get some numbers and figure out how many people we need to be thinking about feeding. Really for the council also, we would like this to be a kind of a meet and greet for everybody to meet the council to meet each other, and everybody to get comfortable with each other so that we can really get into this work in a way of respect and trust. And I didn't mention this yet, but we'll put this on the event. But the dress is, come as you are comfortable, business casual is fine, whatever feels right for all of you. And the site has some uneven pavement. So if you, heels are probably not a good option, but wear comfy shoes that you can walk in a little bit. There is parking at the site, and we'll update for those who have registered. We'll send out the site details as well. But we really would appreciate your engagement. The weather's supposed to be gorgeous, and it's going to be a great way for us to all come back together after now, I think 2 years on the dot will be that day since the lockdown. And so it'll be a time for us to reflect as well.
And for those that are unable to join us in person, we are working on the logistics for virtual participation. So be on the lookout for that.
Julie is raising her hand again. I don't know. Here.
That's fine.
Julie?
For those, I'm sorry. For those of us who are interested in coming to the site, is there any kind of assistance to the elders if we're wanting to bring elders who participated in the past processes? Is there any kind of housing or any kind of stipends to make available to them so they could participate?
I don't think at this time that it's ready because that's part of the community fund. But as we move forward, so we'll have a conversation with our funding partner to see what's possible and whether that can be just done. As we move forward, and we'll talk to, though, if it's specific to the Heritage Center work, we can also talk to them because they have a different kind of funding mechanism and they may be able to accommodate. So we will talk to both of our partners, see if it's possible for this time around, and we'll update folks on that for elders specifically. And if not, we will have that available in future as we have more meetings.
Thank you.
And this is not a solicitation, but if there are any tribes that would like to offer that, I don't think people would be offended by it. Any other hands raised at this time?
Doesn't look like it.
Okie doke. Well, then we will let folks run. Please feel free to reach out if you have follow-up questions, comments, concerns. We are very excited to see some people in person in Sacramento. And again, thank you for making the time, and we will be